I've seen a lot of woke progressives recently, these woke progs, ask a question that they think is some gotcha question for conservatives. And the question is, if you use the word woke, define woke. And I think to myself, the problem isn't defining it. The problem is giving one enough time to explain fully what wokeism is, because there's a lot of different ways you could define wokeism. You could talk about CRT, you could talk about critical theory in general, you could talk about Maoism. You could talk about the religious undertones in wokeism, or what I personally think, not so much religion, but sort of political new ageism. There's a lot of that in wokeism. One way that I typically answer when I'm asked to define woke is to point out that woke, in my estimation, is medieval. It's sort of a medieval practice. And what do I mean by that? Well, for instance, in medieval times, there was a belief in casting spells, using language to change reality, right? So you could cast a spell and turn just a regular, ordinary person into a pig or a swine, right? And or you could just change reality by saying something and saying it intensely. So you see this in the form of people who are just ordinary conservatives, traditional liberals, going about their business, holding really normal, benign views, and they go, "You are a R word." I won't say it because these platforms ban people now. You are an R word. You're an F word. The political movement that starts with F, that F word. You are a W supremacist or something, right? They also, so it's like spells, curses, hexes. And the way they say it, if you ever watch a woke prog point at somebody, right? And they point at them, and it's like you. It's like a wand's in their hand. Like I'm not saying that this is a mere metaphor, analogy, anything like that. I'm saying it's the same psychological energy. That's what I'm saying. It's the same psychological energy. So there's spells, curses, hexes. The homeless become unhoused, changing language. And this isn't so new. I remember back in the mid-aughts, I believe, and somebody fact-checked me on this, that they stopped calling them terrorist attacks and instead called them man-made disasters. I think they actually changed the language there. I remember when they changed manhole cover to personhole cover or some insanity like that. So you have these curses and so forth. There's incantations, like for protection. So I saw this video the other day of a woman who said she was indigenous, claimed she was indigenous. She said, as an indigenous person, you essentially can't give me a speeding ticket or whatever she was pulled over for. It's like it's kind of like an incantation for protection. There's symbolic torture everywhere. You could look at deplatforming as sort of de-tonguing, right? In the past, they just tear out your tongue. Now they deplatform you. They roll out the guillotine. Now they just roll out a cancellation. They will cut off your hands in the past, which could stop you from working. Today, they just get you fired. You get online mob attacks. You get these pitchfork mobs going around. There's weird sort of secret societies. For instance, I just saw the other day, Whites for Harris. It is sort of humorous. It's kind of silly. There's amulets. There's charms. The amulets and charms could be something like certain emojis or flag profile you put in your profile. It could be certain hashtags you use, to protect you. I'm trying to think what else. The main thing, belief in a supernatural force, that evil force that pervades everything. And we could call it the W supremacy patriarchy. It's everywhere. It's within all systems. It's in all books. It's in logos. It's in every corporation. And it's in the minds and unconscious minds of people. So it's even in the psyche. And to see it, you have to be awake. You have to be woke. There are certain texts that are passed around among those in woke camps. Certain texts like the 1619 Project or White Fragility. So these texts are passed around, and this is where you learn your spells. You could think of universities almost as, like wizarding schools, right? The School of Dark Arts. It's like every professor is Professor Snape. So when I think of wokeism, that's how I think of it sometimes, that it's medieval. It is the same psychological patterns emerging as political extremism. And I don't think this only happens on the left wing. It's most prominent now on the left. But if you look at like the Triple K organization, I won't say their thing because it might ban the video, what they call themselves, the Grand Wizards. And they used certain weird language as well. That's something else I didn't mention. They used sort of esoteric, weird language. Problematic, marginalization. It's just stochastic terrorism. Like they like making new words because the PhDs graduate and they don't know what to do, so they just try to come up with catchy terms and new spells. Okay, but the Triple K organization will put "cla" in front of words. Okay, like all the time. So everything was like "cla this, cla that." Just weirdness, right? So I think when you become politically extreme, you start to retrograde. You start to regress back into a medieval mindset. And I think it happens on the left and the right. Right now, it's most prominent on the left. But in the far right, you start to see some of that too. Anyways,